let's get to the touchpad. Adin-gra Kofi is here. Edwin, it's quite amazing seeing Cote d'Ivoire do their thing, but I'm sure there was a method to what it is they were doing, and I'm sure they played their part in ensuring that Nigeria would not be too potent on the day.
They absolutely did. They definitely set up in a way that allowed them to exploit Nigeria's weaknesses and also, complement their own strengths. And I think you've done a pretty wonderful assessment of how both teams set up. But I'd like us to take a look at how they started the game initially. So this is first few minutes, first few seconds anyway, just 30 seconds into the game. And you have a clear idea of how the Ivory Coast have set up in this one. So we're going to take a look at this. They have their 2 center backs. So there's 2. They have 3 players over here. 3. 2 in midfield, and then 3 up front. So this is basically a 2-3-2-3 formation. Why this helps will become very apparent soon. But on the face of it, 3 attackers, 2 wingers constantly supporting Haller on the same side. They widen the pitch anytime they have the ball to allow Haller to deal with 2 defenders on his own, or these 3 defenders on his own. And then that's where Frank Kessié and Fofana are very important, because they will then run in between the lines, join the attack as much as possible. They were giving the license to join the attack as much as possible. Jean-Michel Seri, they knew they were going to have a lot of possession, so he was a sole man in the middle of the park to probably stop any attacks that get beyond the 2 in behind the front 3. Then you have the full backs who, anytime Ivory Coast have the ball, they'll push forward and join Michel Seri in midfield, basically making a midfield 3 to provide some balance on either side of the pitch. Nigeria were not able to cope with that too much. So this is them, Ivory Coast, in possession. Now we move it further. They have the ball. You can see perfect structure. Even when Simon Adin-gra comes back to receive the ball, he immediately runs back. Conan joins the midfield 3, and the structure is set again. The ball is played over the top by Kusiono. It doesn't, it's cleared, but you can see that this is a strategy they wanted to employ. Out of possession, Haller becomes the sole man. Sorry, we'll take that out. Haller becomes the sole person up front because he is the main striker. Simon Adin-gra drops back even further than Sekou Fofana. Fofana joins Frank Kessié, and they become a 2 behind Haller. And the other 2 who are more mobile, quicker, Adin-gra and Max Gradel, move even further back to join Jean-Michel Seri to make it another balanced midfield there. Then you have your full-backs going back to join the centre-backs to ensure that Osimhen has another player to deal with in case he gets the ball. So the ball is eventually played forward, pass to Osimhen, but then he has more bodies to deal with because the Ivory Coast have all sat back. One thing I want to point out is the difference between how Ivory Coast wingers and Nigeria's wingers set up. And this explains why one team was better in attack than the other. Clear setup of how Nigeria in attack. Look at the starting positions of both of Nigeria's wingers. Sorry, Look at the starting positions of the supporting players for Osimhen. All of them are well behind Osimhen. And eventually, as the ball goes forward, Nigeria loses it and Ivory Coast take possession. Once the Ivory Coast gets possession, we'll take a look at the starting positions of the supporting players for Haller. So once it goes forward, immediately, the 2 wingers, Adin-gra and Max Gradel, join Haller. They are on the same line as him.
Okay.
This creates more options for the passes. They can either find Gradel, who is hugging the touchline on the right, find Adin-gra, who is hugging the touchline on the left, or go through the middle to Haller, who can challenge with a couple of defenders. If, in case the ball doesn't get to any of those, Frank Kessié and Sekou Fofana join the attack and ensure that there are numbers to win the second ball. This was a strategy the Ivory Coast were using constantly and consistently throughout the game. So there's always support for Haller on the side. There's always backup in case they need to have the second ball. In this case, Victor Osimhen commits the foul. And this was a constant feature for Nigeria as well, consistently committing fouls to ensure that the Ivory Coast did not have significant movement. Even in cases where Lookman and Chukwueze were close to Victor Osimhen, were in positions where they could have an attack. It seems there was this fear in the Nigerian team where they knew they had to drop back anyway. They were more focused on defense than they were on the attack. So even when they were close to Osimhen, Lookman immediately drops back, Chukwueze immediately drops back. Even with a player like Sanusi well up the field, they still had to drop back because there was this hesitation, this nervousness in the Nigerian team. And you can see it here too. I'll stop it at this moment right here. Just take a look at the gap between Victor Osimhen and the other Nigerian players. Look at how deep Nigeria was in this situation. Nobody supporting him. And that is where they resorted to the long balls. Because once they got the ball in this position, there was no way they were going to beat a couple, maybe 3 Ivorian players in order to get closer to Victor Osimhen to make the pass. They had to go long and hope that he would be able to hold on to the ball. Unfortunately, in the first half especially, he didn't do it too much. So the Ivory Coast kept recycling possession, kept putting Nigeria under pressure. And there was never any moment where you'd have 2 players, more than 2 players, joining the press with Osimhen. It was just one. If one steps up, the other goes back defensively, which was a good structure, but it limited Nigeria very much going forward offensively. So this was how they were approaching the whole first half. Again, the ball is put here. They have a chance to move forward, but then there are only 2 players. Victor Osimhen is all the way here. There's no way he's going to be able to come back and win the ball. So it was a feature throughout the game. But, of course, Nigeria did take the lead. It wasn't from any possession football. It was from a set piece. And we'll see where exactly the Ivory Coast went wrong. First of all, the marking. You do not put Serge Aurier on Trustekong, who is one of Nigeria's best headers of the ball, one of Nigeria's... Yeah, he was absolutely marking him. So he was left with him, and he pushed him off. And then he went in for the second header. If Trustekong, who is already much taller than Aurier, gets a run in on Aurier, there's no way, that's just one person winning that battle, aerial battle. So very poor defending from the Ivory Coast on that set piece. Nigeria also conceded from a set piece, but they were giving warnings prior to that. In the first half, there were a couple of set pieces that the Ivory Coast had, even more than the 2 clips I'm showing here. But these are 2 of the two that I'm putting out for our viewers today. We'll speed this up so we get a good idea of where everyone is set up. So take a look at the back post, where Frank Kessié is heading to. He heads over there eventually, making his way slowly to that position. And for Nigeria, no one picks him up in this position. There's no one picking him up. There was a lot of zonal marking in that situation. No one picked up Frank Kessié, and he was all alone. Unfortunately for the Ivory Coast, the ball did not get to him, almost resulted in a chance for Haller. That was one set piece. And this is yet another one that they got after we get this highlight of Haller's chance, which was very close, by the way, almost set up by Simon Adin-gra in the first half. Very good cross, almost got a foot to it, and that resulted from coming back after the corner kick, after the corner kick had been cleared. But Nigeria did not defend that well at all. And then there was this free kick. And right here, Simon Adin-gra, again, left all alone at the back post. If the ball had been headed to him, he has a chance to take a shot at goal. So it was a problem Nigeria kept facing throughout, even in the first half. They were given opportunities to clear the ball. They were not defending the set pieces, especially the back post, very well. And it resulted in, obviously, the Ivory Coast taking advantage in the second half and finding the equalizer. Again, Frank Kessie at the back post, unmarked. He was able to head it in. This time, the delivery was perfect. In the first half, crosses came from Jean-Michel Seri. I think at times they were from Max Gradel, never from Adin-gra though. So in the second half, they changed that. They knew that they had to put in some better balls. The ball from Adin-gra was perfect. And over here, you can clearly see Frank Kessie on his own, not being marked. So much space for him to run into the box and get the header. And it was a perfect header.
To ask a quick question. If we are doing zonal marking, is it a good idea for the goalkeeper to make that move that he made? Because if we are marking zonally, I would expect that, okay, I'll be on my line and allow my defenders to mark the zone and be able to clear the ball away. Because as you could see, he came out, he was caught in between two minds. Yes. If he was on his line,
exactly,
he would have definitely had a better hand to it. So is it a good idea for a keeper to, join and be able to, or is it a matter of reading, timing and all of that? Because I felt a bit
of probably if he can get something to it, if he can parry the ball or get attached to it. But you see, it's a judgment thing. So when you come out, you're a goalkeeper. I think when you come out that far and you realize that, no, I'm not getting anywhere close to it. He was not really that far off. Yeah. So you think of withdrawing back. But sometimes it's like how we analyze the Congo game. When you come off the line that much and you are going back. Because even looking at it, it's a little bit far from the post where
he gets
the right power. And before that, he had power on it.
I was even going to say that the goalkeeper doesn't get anywhere close
at all
to the floated ball. So
he
the
goes
into no man's land
and
now has to backtrack.
And that's definitely his fault, in my opinion, because he felt he could actually get the ball, but he misjudged the height of the ball or the direction the ball was getting to, thereby getting himself caught in two minds. Do I go out? And then quickly, Kessie had to connect the ball there. So it's a bit more.
I think it's more of a good corner kick than poor misjudgment. I think it was too good. The corner kick was very good.
Yeah, it was a very good delivery from Simon Adin-gra. And that is why they switched it, because they realized that the balls were not beating the first man. They were not getting far enough to take advantage of that mismatch that had been created with the back post. And the good change by the manager, I'm sure it was the manager who did that. He made a right choice. But speaking of Simon Adin-gra, he was fantastic throughout the game, created problems down the left-hand side for the Ivory Coast. And we saw the pass distribution map that he was the most used player for the Ivory Coast. He was their biggest outlet. And in the first half, he probably could have got a couple of goals, maybe created a couple of assists. We'll speed it up so that we get this along. But you can tell his movement. He has the beating of Ola Aina, and he knows that he has the beating of Ola Aina. So a couple of times he took him on the run. This time his shot was way over. But you can tell that he's definitely a threat. Aina knows that he has a problem with him. He can't deal with him on his own. And Simon Adin-gra, if he polishes up his finishing, polishes up his final ball, could have got a little something from there. All alone down that side, nobody to help until Fofana fell, but then it was too late. Adin-gra was past him, and that was a chance that was created. There were several of these opportunities for the Ivory Coast where they targeted the side Simon Adin-gra was. They recognized his movement, a long ball over the top. This time, Nwabali gets to it first. Nwabali gets to it first, and then Adin-gra couldn't get the ball. But here's another opportunity where they create a situation where they win the ball very quickly. Ola Aina is very
Isolated.
is very out of his position, so out of his position that it leaves Adin-gra free, and he probably would have backed himself to do much better with that opportunity. Just look at how far back Ola Aina was. And this was Nigeria in possession in their own half, not even across the halfway line. And he was already bombing up the pitch. So the risk you take is, obviously, Adin-gra has a clear run, clear space, and then if you have a player who can make the pass to him, and obviously Frank Kessie could make the pass to him, found him in some good space. However, his first touch let him down. It didn't keep the ball in front of him enough to have an immediate shot. He had to hesitate a bit, get closer before taking the shot, and that made it a little easier for the Nigerian goalkeeper to get at. But of course, all that was just a precursor to what happened in the second half for the Ivory Coast winner. Again, he is there. He takes Ola Aina on the side. And unlike players who are very one-footed, he is very comfortable on his left foot to put a good ball into the box, and Haller with a wonderful save.
Yeah, Wabali just stood watching.
Yes, he did. Could Aina have done better? Could he have helped Adin-gra a little more, allowed Kelechi Iheanacho to come and support him? Yes, maybe he could have. But in this position, you are talking about a player of the ability of Simon Adin-gra. It's difficult to keep him in one place, but it was still poor defending. He showed his side, decided to stick out his leg, and Adin-gra took full advantage. Wonderful ball, but you've got to credit the finishing from Haller as well. He was not favourite for that ball, and he stuck out a very long leg and nudged it into the back of the net. So obviously, the Ivory Coast set up really well right from the start, and they dominated Nigeria, who never got into the groove of things. They took their chances, and they exploited their strengths in Simon Adin-gra, kept going down that side. Nigeria never recovered, and obviously the Ivory Coast took advantage, and they are AFCON winners.
All right, Simon Adin-gra getting high praise there. But guys, it makes you want to think about Ernest Nuamah. Probably what could have been. What could have been. What could have been.